Hi, my loves. Welcome to the TRIBEvibe meditation series hosted by Black Amethyst Naturals. I'm so glad that you could be here with us today on our final episode about self-worth. I apologize for the late upload. It's been a little crazy. We've had just a whole lot going on. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get it up last week, but I was not going to miss this episode because it was amazing and I want to make sure that we got it up here. So here we are. Thank you for practicing some grace and allowing us to, work it out, honey. But I really appreciate you. So before we do all of that, what my housekeeping item is when we first get on here is to tell you guys to go do your social media. So I need you to like, share, subscribe, and follow. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. That's where you're going to be able to get the full episodes every week at 7 o'clock. We may play around with some of the different things. And I told you guys last week we're going to pull out some little chunks and nuggets of some of the best parts of the TRIBEvibe so that people can just, be more aware. I know you guys that are here with us every week, you know how awesome and amazing TRIBEvibe is, and you know what we do here. You know that we get on Tuesday, we talk about examples of whatever self-care and wellness thing, our topic we've chosen for the week. Wednesday we get on here and we break it down so it can forever be broke. And then, on Thursday we get on and we talk about how you can implement that more in your life, how you can grow and develop those things in your life, right? So you can add more tools to your toolbox. But everybody doesn't know that. So in order to make sure that we can reach as many people as possible, we're going to take some of those little nuggets out and we're going to just do short clips here and there. So if you definitely want to find only full episodes, or if you want to make sure that you're up to date on everything all TRIBEvibe, then go subscribe to the YouTube, and you can even click the button to make sure you get a notification when we post a new video so that you can make sure you always together, honey, okay? Anyway, so go do that social media for me. Also, make sure that you click the share button on whatever video you're watching right now. And then additionally, I want you to make sure that you tag your accountability partner. You don't have to tag them in the chat. We talk about a lot of personal things on here. So if you're not comfortable tagging them and they don't want to be tagged, that's okay. But what I want you to do is make sure you text them. Or, you guys pick a day of the week or send them the actual video when you're watching them. Just send them the link. Make it easy on their life for them to just click the link. So we want to make sure that you guys have somebody to process some of this stuff with, because you guys know we get on here and we talk about some heavy stuff. So I want to make sure that you guys are able to have somebody to talk to about it besides just me. All right. Okay, now that we're done with our social media, welcome back to the TRIBEvibe. Again, I'm so excited you guys are here for our conclusion to self-worth, because honey, this is I'm so upset. Let me just tell you, I'll be all the way candid. So last week, I recorded the TRIBEvibe, and y'all know we done switched over from being live to having the pre-production so that we can add even more amazing qualities to the TRIBEvibe. So we switched over to do that, right? And then, y'all, I recorded the video. I got done with the whole thing. It was amazing. I was like in the middle of it like, woo, child, I'm about to shout because it was that good, right? And I got up to check the video and it had only recorded 7 minutes. I wanted to cry, y'all. I did. I wanted to cry. But you know what I said? Okay, I'm not going to be frustrated. I'm just going to put it down. I had to pick it up when I can. And unfortunately for that particular week, I had only a little window to finish the TRIBEvibe in, and if I didn't get it done, I had 1,000 other things that couldn't wait. And so that's how come we really behind on the TRIBEvibe from last week. But that's okay, because like I said, we're practicing some grace with it. So, give me my little grace, honey, and let me have that one, because you're going to have to charge that to the game, not to my heart, because, honey, I was trying. But anyway, so that's what happened last week. But this week, I think, this episode is a really good episode, so I definitely wanted to make sure that we did not skip it. So, here we are. What they say, better late than never. Here we are, okay? So, today we are going to be talking about how to develop your self-worth. And it's not just for people who don't have self-worth, or it's not just for people who already have been working on their self-worth and want to make themselves experts on, masters on self-worth. It's for any and everybody. I kid you not, I don't care where you are in your self-care and wellness journey, you're going to find something in here that you can do today. Kid you not. So, we're going to run them down. We're going to break it down so it can forever be broke. So, y'all ready to get into it? All right, let's go. Okay, so our first thing, these things are in order, okay? So I think probably the best practice that you can do today would be to listen. And, I don't generally tell y'all to pause the video, but today will really be a good time to listen and pause. And like as we go through each step, there are 5 of them. As we go through each one, I kind of want you to really take an assessment with yourself of the things we're talking about, because y'all know I'm not just gonna run them down. We're gonna break them down. So I want you to really take an assessment of the things we're talking about, and take a pause after each one if you have the time. If not, come back and do it later, because I think this is a really, really great exercise. And really think to yourself, like, am I doing all those things? Is there somewhere in there that I can improve? Because just because you are not doing step 1 fully does not mean that you haven't gotten to step 5. Like, you can be in and out of these different steps. It's really great. It's really great practice to go in order, because you make sure that you clear everything out of your way as you're moving forward. But honey, you can still move forward and be dragging one of them bags from your baggage. You can still be dragging it along. So I want you to make sure that as we go through each step, you're thinking about it, thinking about the different things we pull out, and saying to yourself, tell yourself the ugly truth if you need to. Do I still need to work some more on these things? Or am I great? And if you're great with it, honey, pat yourself on the back. Because y'all know we talk about this. We don't get on this TRIBEvibe to make you feel judged, to make you feel like you're not where you should be. We want to be encouraging and empowering when we're on here. So if you are doing something and you done mastered it, y'all know we talk about practicing, becoming a habit, and then you can master it. If you are ready to master a level, if you Goku Super Saiyan on them, honey, go on with your blonde hair and your lightning coming up off of you. Go ahead with it, okay? Pat yourself on the back. Y'all, we talked about this one week, and I was like, Rick James said it's a celebration, and we about to be celebrating. That's where we at. So even if it's nothing else but to remind you that you are walking in your full greatness, I want you to take a moment and pause and celebrate your greatness, honey, okay? And for those other folks, honey, it's just, we all here in love. So if you find some stuff you need to work on, don't feel discouraged about it. Feel empowered, because now you have the information, and now you got the know-how to make sure that you can add that tool to your toolkit, so when you need it, you can use it. Okay, so here we go. All right, so step 1, I guess we can call it step 1. We'll call it step 1. Y'all okay with calling it step 1? I'm okay. All right, so step 1 is self-understanding, okay? I'm pretty sure we talk about some form of self-understanding every week, because it's imperative. Y'all know that one week I kept saying everything was imperative. Self-understanding is imperative, because you can't have those deep conversations with other folks. Ooh, child, excuse me. You can't have those deep conversations with other folks if you can't have the deep conversation with yourself. And so I think I can't remember what episode we talked about this, about modeling behavior, right? You don't ask other people to do things that you aren't doing. And not because you don't want to ask other people things, but you just won't get the best results from asking people to do things that you aren't modeling. So the best practice is to develop those skills for yourself, so that you can see them in other people and request them from other people, and set up a boundary if you need to. So self-understanding is huge in everything, and of course it's huge in understanding your self-worth. And so when we're talking about self-understanding, probably the best place to start with that is to remove all things physical, right? So you want to remove your job, you want to remove your children, you want to remove your house, you even want to remove what you look like, the skin unit. Remove all things physical from your space, because we really want to start focusing on what's internal, not external, right? Because external things, y'all know, we just going to call them superficial. We're going to call a thing a thing. They're superficial things, right? And so sometimes, and we talked about this on the last episode, sometimes we get to try to measure ourselves by external things, but that's not a measure. It's like trying to add with letters. The two things don't go together. Now we can walk around pretending like we add with letters or spelling with numbers. We can do that if we want to, but we understand that that's not really how it works. And it's the exact same thing. When you're measuring your self-worth, if you're measuring it with external things, you can kid yourself and feel like that's what you're doing. But that's not actually what you're doing. So if we get rid of all those things, it'll clear all the distractions, so we can make sure we're really focusing on understanding who we are. And once you remove all of those physical things, the next thing you can do is ask yourself, what do I have to offer inside, right? So like your characteristics, your goals, we talk about that all the time. Like, what are your core values? What are you doing with your life and yourself, right? So we want to start focusing on those things. And we can ask additional questions like, how do we show up? We can ask, who am I? We can ask what brings us joy. And we can also ask what makes us feel fulfilled. And then we can also ask not even ask, but start to think about some of the moments that define us. So when we're talking about moments that define us, we want to make sure that we're talking about things like, that are really monumental moments, and we want to look at them. So for instance, we were talking about when you get married. You don't want to look at the moment and say, like, I'm married now, so that means I'm a wife, and like that's the only thing that I am now and that defines me. You want to look at it and say, what does marriage mean to you? Does it mean fidelity, commitment, perseverance? Does it mean, really that you want to walk in this life with another partner because like you're big on building legacy, you're big on your family, right? So there are other things that you can look at those big events in your life, and you can start to unpack who are you based upon what your understanding of yourself, like your internal self is, in relationship to those big events. So that can be another place that you can start to look. So outside of asking who am I, and what we were just saying about like what brings me joy and fulfillment, you can also look at those events to kind of help you if you get stuck and you're like, okay, well, I know these things are basic, but I feel like there's more to it. You can look at those big events and start to kind of unpack that way too. Okay. And you guys know, excuse me, honey, excuse me, it was itching. You guys know that it's really major to talk about everything. So I tell you guys often, and I will remind you often, and I'll tell you if you don't know, and then I'm going to remind you often, okay? That we have to tell ourselves the whole truth, even the good, bad, and the ugly, right? So we don't always just want to focus on the things that we want to change, or, some things that maybe we haven't had a chance to fully develop yet, right? We don't always want to just focus there. We also want to celebrate. I said that earlier, it's a celebration, right? So we want to make sure that we're celebrating things about ourselves too. But when it comes to understanding ourselves fully, we have to be able to understand where we have blind spots, understanding where our fears are, where our triggers are. Because once you get triggered, honey, then you end up in a defense mechanism. So you need to know how that cycle plays out for yourself, right? Because we want to understand ourselves fully. That's the whole first step about self-worth and developing your self-worth, is really understanding yourself top to bottom, inside, outside, everything, right? All of it. And so we also have to understand, like, where are our boundaries? Did we create boundaries for ourselves? When we created them, what did that mean? Are our boundaries actually what we need them to be in order to communicate and facilitate what it is that we're looking for? And then in addition to that, you guys know we talked about boundaries on the week about letting things go. And the discipline part of the boundaries. So yeah, maybe you have the boundary, and yeah, maybe the boundary is great for what it is that you needed to do, but are you disciplined enough to implement it? Are you disciplined in other parts of your life, right? So we have to have the conversation with ourselves about our strengths, our weaknesses, things that are neutral. I just want you to know everything. I want you to know yourself better than anybody else knows you. They shouldn't be able to call nothing that you about to do and you don't know you about to do it, okay? All right, so that's step one for how to develop your self-worth. We want to make sure we have a full, clear understanding of who we are, right? On the inside, not superficial, not outside, none of that. Who we are. Second step is self-acceptance. And when we talk about self-acceptance, really just the full understanding that it's okay to be who you are, that you're on a journey, Just like I asked you guys earlier to give me some grace for, you know, some of the things that happened because they was beyond my control. And then when I did like the things I could have exercised that were in my control, I didn't have it. Like I had gotten so frustrated with that thing that I was like, I don't have it. And instead of like beating myself up, right? Because I have self-acceptance, I understood it's okay for me not to have it. Right? So that's like a trap that we fall into a lot where we like, oh, I gotta push through because it's never okay for me not to have it. But it was okay for me not to have it then, because I said, okay, well, what can I do with not having it? Well, I can record the episode when I get a moment to it. That's what we're doing, right? And so being able to understand that journey, being able to give yourself grace, being able to be at peace with yourself, you know, the centeredness to look at things and say there's really no positive or negative, right? Things just are. We talked about this on the last episode about just being able just to be, and about things just are because they are. And self-acceptance, there's a lot of times when we, you know, don't really get there with ourselves. You know, we've got these preconceived notions that are either imposed upon us through our family relations, through society, through our personal relationship with ourselves and what it is that we think. Oh, goodness gracious. You guys, if you haven't ever kicked yourself for not adulting, okay? For doing something that I literally talked to one of my best friends the other day, and they was like, I'm about to be financially irresponsible. And it was cathartic for them to feel that way. And the reason it was cathartic for them to feel that way is because it was heavy. It was probably a really heavy burden for them to always feel like every single decision they made had to be about fiscal responsibility. And they're doing all this work and making all these sacrifices, never getting an opportunity to really fully enjoy some of the money that they've been making all these sacrifices and working all hard for, because when they get it, then they felt responsible for the money and felt like, oh, I need to be an adult, and so I can't just blow it, right? And so we find ourselves in that trap, in that cycle a lot. And so self-acceptance, after you fully understand who you are, right, top to bottom, after you fully understand it, then the next step is to be able to accept what you fully understand. Y'all, I'm gonna go back because sometimes I go to such simple examples because I just want you guys to see it as clearly as I do, and I know sometimes it's hard for us to get there. Sometimes I know it's hard for us to get there. So I want us to be able to say 2 + 2 = 4 all day, every day. Okay? You not sitting up there. If somebody said that, you ain't arguing with them about how it don't. You ain't throwing away your calculator because your calculator said it was 4. You've just accepted it. And things that are true about us need to be accepted. It does not mean that you don't decide that you want to continue to grow and work on things, or that you choose to do differently, knowing that that's how you currently operate, and you know, are choosing to do differently. That's not what we're doing. But you've got to get all of that like guilt and stress and like, you know, anxiety out of the way so that you really can fully be present when you're trying to work on these things. And if you constantly guilt tripping yourself because you haven't accepted who you are, it's gonna be hard. You know how you hear people say they take 1 step forward and 2 steps back? That's the cycle you're gonna put yourself in when you start doing things like not accepting who you are fully when you're trying to do the work. Okay? All right. So that's step 2. Step 2 is self-acceptance. So step 1, fully understand ourselves. Step 2, self-acceptance. Step 3. Step 3, my favorite one, y'all. Step 3, self-love. Hey, self-love is the best love. Y'all know I say that every TRIBEvibe. It is, you know, I always say I'm true to this. I'm not new to this. Self-love is the best love, and I stick with that. You can't argue me off that. You can try, but you're not going to, because I understand that when we talking about this here self-worth and development, that after you understand yourself, after you accept everything, then comes the self-love, right? So if you haven't done those 2 things, then you're not going to get to this point, and that's okay, baby, because, you know, I keep you encouraged, and I know you're going to get there when you get there. But honey, that's some real joy for you right there. Okay, that's the black boy joy and some black girl magic. As you know, we right there. I don't have nothing for the other nationalities and creeds and races. I'm sorry, y'all. They're just, y'all got to come up with y'all stuff. I don't have those little, cute little. Okay, anyway. I don't want nobody to feel no type of way. I wasn't being, when excluding nobody. I just don't have it. I don't have the terms for y'all. Y'all got to come up with some hashtags so I can say I'm on the TRIBEvibe. And y'all not have me all stressed out trying to figure it out in the middle of the thing. Anyway, back to self-love. But self-love is about being kind to yourself and being tolerant and generous. And generous, I'm going to challenge y'all because, and I'm about to stop and take a moment and pause on generosity because, honey, I don't know if everybody does this. I know this is a plight amongst black women specifically, but a lot of times we, by default, put ourselves last. We go and we take care of, nurture, love on, uplift everybody else. And it could be other black women, but we uplift everybody else outside of ourselves. And we put ourselves in the back. Even like, women that'll fix everybody's plate, fix everybody's food before they fix their own food. You done cooked the whole dinner and now you fixing everybody's plate. Y'all don't start adding me. Y'all don't start adding me. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. It's your own prerogative. I'm not telling you not to fix that food in that order. But what I am saying is you got plenty of people who is capable of coming to fix their own plate. So if you need to sit down, go on and sit down and let them other folks fix their plate. Okay. Anyway, generosity. So I want you to think, does that make you feel uncomfortable? Right? Those folks that was about to add me, do you feel uncomfortable in that? Does it feel uncomfortable for you to be as generous to yourself as you are to other folks? Because sometimes it bleeds over into our ability to allow other people to be as generous to us as we are to them. Okay, you see how it's really getting into a problem here? Okay, so are you generous to yourself? Are you compassionate with yourself? And y'all, this one right here, do you talk nice to yourself? I don't know if you guys seen it. It's been a number of years ago, and it was like a big thing, and everybody was talking about it, and they were talking about that experiment that they did where they had the plants, and the one set of plants they talked nice to, the other set of plants they were cussing at and screaming and all that stuff. They were just being mean, basically. And the plants grew differently. I don't know if you guys remember that experiment, but the plants they got talked nice and lovingly to, they grew better. They literally grew better. No conditions were different. Watered them the same amount of light, same kind of plant, start off the same size. And the one plant that they talked to nicely grew better, and the other plant didn't grow as well. And so you can understand when you're speaking, and it's not like a monotone. It's not like they were just saying like, I love you, I hate you. Where it was just like the same. They were giving the power and the motion behind what they were saying. Those are vibrations, right? Y'all know everything's energy and all that stuff, and the vibrations impact you on a subatomic level that you're not necessarily aware of. But if you can understand a plant that don't understand no English, okay? I'm saying English because that's the language we speak. But if you can understand a plant that does not understand verbal language, can tell the difference between a vibration of something speaking love into it and something speaking hate into it, then you can understand how that matters for you too. Because you actually understand what it is that you're saying. So you hitting yourself on a whole lot of different places when you punching with words. Okay? So talk kindly to yourself. Okay? And then also choose to focus on the positive. Honey, I just, y'all know I get on here sometimes and I'll be like, wow, I don't even know. I don't feel like we really need to explain it. And I'll be knowing that we need to explain it for some of the folks in the back. But you can make a choice to focus on the positive. Dave, also, y'all know I stay on here being like, yeah, they did a study. Yeah, honey, the research stay. Because y'all know I want to talk about it and be about it. So we need to make sure we know what we're talking about it. But, they also did some studies about this particular thing, and it's just kind of like a sociological, really not, more psychological development thing that happened to us again back when the bears were jumping out the caves on us, okay? Back then. And basically, you know, for us to remember, like when we're talking about the fight, flight, freeze, I can't think of the other one. I always keep forgetting this other one that I just heard recently. When we talk about that response, right, that to that external stimulus of like danger, when we're talking about that, your brain has developed in a way to hold on to the negative, right? Because it's imperative that we remember that the bears live in the cave. If we walk past the cave, we hear a growl, that's the bear coming running. It's imperative that we remember that as a species so we ain't just die, okay? It was imperative, right? And so biologically speaking, we no longer had a bear jumping out the cave on us, right? Okay, you know, stay with me if you ain't heard the story yet, stay with me. So that trigger, or I guess that brain development is still there. So when it comes time for, you know, just the general, like say you're having a relationship with somebody, and it comes time for some negative stuff to happen. Say you have a relationship with your kids and you got to punish them or whatnot. We need to remember that. And oh shoot, y'all should have looked it up because they have a number. I want to say, is it 5? I want to say they have like even been as specific to say it takes like 5 positive interactions, like totally loving, not neutral, like loving interactions to undo one negative, like in regards to your relationship with your children. So it's the same thing with yourself. Like, you know, if you constantly are focusing on the negative, not that you're unaware of the negative, but are you choosing to spend all of your energy there? And by default, right, like we said, it's not necessarily something you're choosing to do, it's that you're not choosing to spend as much energy on the positive, right? That's the action that you have to take. The negative stuff is by default because we were reared as a species to be focusing on the negative. But you have to make sure that you are aware of and actively practicing focusing on the positive and taking, you know, an account, sitting down and balancing the checkbook. Have I been focusing mostly on the negative, or have I been spending as much time focusing on the positive? And you'll start to see the paradigms will shift, perspectives and things of that nature will shift. Just kind of your overall stress and everything starts to shift when you start moving from only focusing on the negative stuff to really making sure you're present and making an active effort to focus on the positive. Okay? So that's part of self-love, honey. Also, like, you know, be uplifting to yourself. Be your biggest cheerleader. And then once you get all that mastered, honey, that's when you get into unconditional love, right? And if we break down unconditional love, then you'll see, like, in the definition of that, it comes with understanding, right? Self-understanding. It comes with acceptance, self-acceptance. And then it comes with all these other things we're talking about when we're talking about being active and loving on yourself. So unconditional love for yourself is where you get to when you're at the end of step 3. When you're at the end of the self-love and self-love don't ever end, but when you have gotten to the point where you start, you know, making it a habit and start mastering self-love, then you get to a place where you can really start to master unconditional love for self. And honey, once you really get to the place of unconditional love for self, then that's when you can give unconditional love to other people and talk about life-changing stuff. When you can unconditionally love other people, that's life-changing. All right, y'all. That was step 3. We got 6 fingers up. Step 3. That was step 3, okay? So step 1, self-understanding. Step 2, self-acceptance. Step 3, self-love. Okay? So after we've done those 3 things, when we're practicing how to develop our self-worth, then we get to a place of recognition. Okay, y'all. So what are we talking about when we're talking about recognition? It's really kind of as simple as the statement, you are enough. And y'all know I say that all the time too. So they're my 2 favorite steps right there. Self-love is the best love and you are enough. They're my 2 favorite. Now I just think it's something we need to be reminded of. And to make it, y'all know we talk about, can we normalize saying whatever, but just to make it the normal internal and external conversation we have amongst ourselves and each other. And the point of recognition when we're talking about this path to developing a strong sense of self-worth is really kind of the culmination of all of those other things. So kind of like when I was saying, we wrapped up self-love and get to unconditional love and talking about how transformative it is to be able to give that unconditional love, and how transformative it is to be able to choose to focus as much energy on the positivity, how transformative it is to be able to give yourself grace and to know that everything that you do is okay. You know, even for some people that sounds crazy to even say that, how transformative it is to get to a place of understanding for that. And how, I mean, I don't have to explain to y'all how deep it is to fully understand yourself. And so step 4 is really just about recognizing that you've done all that work. It's the celebration. We're back in the celebration. Self-worth is all about like acceptance and celebration of self. But we're back at the celebration of patting yourself on the back and just really sitting in it, like smelling your roses, right? Sitting back. Remember baby boy, y'all? And Jody mama had planted all them greens and tomatoes. What else she had? She had greens, tomatoes. I can't remember what else. Probably some green beans or something. Anyway, she had planted like all of her favorite foods that her grandma, I think she's at her grandma, or her mother had planted. And that one scene, she got her little table set up. She got one chair, honey. She ain't got no chair for nobody else, just chair for her. She got that one chair. She sit back in her table and she get a glass of wine and she just sit there and look, and she just gets this really big smile on her face because she's taking a moment, right, to appreciate all of the hard work that she's done, because she's done it right to get to that feeling. Right? And so sometimes we do all the hard work and we so used to working and everything always being so crazy and amped up and stressful and chaotic that we just don't ever take a moment when we've accomplished something to sit back and recognize what it is that we've accomplished. And honey, if you did the self-work of step 1, 2, and 3, when you get to step 4, I want you to sit down with yourself, honey, and take a moment to recognize and smell the roses about you. Or about you. About you, yes. Smell the roses about you, honey. Smell the roses around you. Because then you kind of realize, like, it's not about anybody else. It's about what's going on in here. Like, I can't control them other folks. All I can do is, appreciate and work on, manage whatever word you want to use. I just got me. And it's like you get to a place of groundedness, right? And you really kind of just are grounded in like what we were talking about when we talked about the definition of the definition of self-worth. You get really grounded in like just the understanding that you are valuable. And that's it. There don't gotta be no other pieces of that sentence. You are valuable. And so just being able to really sit and soak and marinate in that. Because then once you steep yourself, like once you sit there long enough, then you start realizing like, I don't have to explain nothing. It's given, right? I know, and that's all that matters. It's not necessary for me to explain these things to anybody else. I know, and that's all that matters. So that's major. Okay, so when we're talking about developing our self-worth, step 1 is self-understanding. Step 2, self-acceptance. Step 3, self-love. And step 4 is recognition. Okay, so that's where we at. We didn't got all them things going. Now, like I said, these steps they're ordered because this is, just like what a best practice is, right? Because somebody got to put them in order. That don't mean you have to go in this order. It helps to have some of these things at least, well thought out. Not necessarily like, okay, I know every single thing about yourself, because you never gonna know, because you're always growing, right? So you got to continue to learn yourself as you continue to grow. But as you're doing that, you can move into self-acceptance. As you're doing those 2 things, you can move into self-love. As you're doing those 3 things, you can stop and smell the roses when it's, when you've accomplished something or when you feel as though it's appropriate, right? So you can do all those things at the same time, right? So we like juggling balls here. But there comes a point in time when I think you have fleshed out so many of the things, right? That you can just, after when you're in your like place of recognition, that you can acknowledge your power. And acknowledging your power is the fifth step. Like that's what you do after you season that gumbo up real good. Then you acknowledge, oh boy, I did that there, okay? And so when you get to acknowledging your power, that's like a place of ownership, right? That's like owning everything that came before that and everything that comes after that, right? Because when you get there, right, honey? Okay, see, this is what I was telling y'all earlier when I was telling you about how come I was so upset. When I was telling you about how come I was so upset that episode had not recorded, okay? Because this is the place I got to. Y'all see how to get myself together and fix myself. When you get to the place where you acknowledge your power and you claim all your stuff, the ownership over all your stuff, right? Because acceptance is part of that. But when you get to the point where you're acknowledging your power and you have claimed ownership of all of your things, honey, that's when you realize that you got the power to change your circumstances. Okay? See, this one I got, this one, and it's still there. It's all up through my bones and everything, okay? When you understand that you have the power to change your circumstances, ain't nobody tell you nothing. Ain't nothing that you can't do. Ain't nothing that you can't manifest. Okay? And that's huge. I don't know. If you don't know, honey, I don't know what to tell you, what to do with you. I don't know. But I want you to work on some of these things. If you can't really understand where I'm at now, you need to work on step 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then when you get to step 5 and you can understand that you acknowledge your power and that you got the power to manifest anything you need, will, wish, desire. And when you get to the point where you understand that you can change all them circumstances. See, this is where I was at. This is where I was at the other day. And I was like, let me gather myself, y'all. And it was so funny because I was like, I was in the middle of it. And I was like, I can't even get the words together to tell y'all how I feel. And I still don't really have the words. It's just like everything inside of me is like, that's it. That's it right there. That's it. I still don't have the words. After a couple days after it, and I had already went over it and read it again and everything else, honey, and I still don't have no words to describe it. Because some things just are. Y'all, we've been talking about this, you know, that just innate understanding. Ain't no explanation needed, ain't no other words for it. It just is. And when you get so grounded and centered and, I mean, you rooted. Oh, that's it. When you just deeply rooted, right? Like, ain't nothing about to move you. You know you about to flourish. You in your environment, you deeply rooted. This is your place. You got this. Okay, anyway, y'all, I'm done with it. Okay? I'm done with it, honey. Whoo, child. Anyway, okay, y'all don't normally get to see me like this. But when we get to talking to one of these, when we get to unpacking some of these stuff, honey, we get down to the good juicy stuff. Ain't nothing like it. So anyway, all right, my loves. After all of that silliness, that's where we have concluded our steps to self-development and self-worth development. And it's not because that's where the end is, right? That's just like I said, these are the order of steps because we had to order them, right? And so as we're working through it, you keep on. It's a cycle. You keep checking with yourself. You keep making sure that you're not validating yourself for exterior things. You keep making sure that you understand yourself fully. You keep making sure that you're okay with who you are and that you're fully aware of you are enough. And that you make sure you loving on yourself and talking kindly to yourself and being generous and uplifting yourself. You making sure that you're going to keep on smelling them roses because you've been putting in that hard work. And you're going to make sure that you understand that everything you do is for you. It by default, other people get to it, like by osmosis. It diffuses out, right? But everything that you do is for you. Okay? And then, honey, you're going to keep on reminding yourself that you got the power. that you control those circumstances, that you can manifest your destiny, okay? That when you walking in your divinity, can't nothing stop you from doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you meant to do. Can't nothing stop you, okay? So, I said I was going to stop, and there I went again. But anyway, I'm going to run them down for y'all one more time. All right, y'all ready? Here we go. All right, step 1 on our ways to develop self-worth. Step 1, self-understanding. Step 2, self-acceptance. Step 3, self-love. Step 4, recognition. And step 5, acknowledge your power there. All right, honey. We're done with that for today. All right, so if you haven't clicked like or share, please do so now. If you haven't followed us, go do so as well so that you can make sure you stay up to date when we bring y'all all of these great videos. And additionally, make sure you find your accountability partner, honey, because y'all see we get into some deep stuff here, and you can do it yourself. You can do it yourself. It's not going to be, it's going to, challenges come with everything that we do, and gifts come with everything we do, right? You get to pick and choose. But we are social creatures, right? We're not meant to do things by ourselves. So if you're talking about something as beautiful and wonderful as developing your self-worth, you're going to have to do a lot of that by yourself. Yes, you are going to have to sit down and have those ugly conversations with yourself so that you can talk to other people about them, right? So that you can go to those safe spaces and talk to people. I kid y'all not. I called my best friend today. I called my best friend today to unpack something. Not because I needed advice, not because it was going to tell me something I didn't already know about myself, but because it felt good to know I had the support and love of somebody while I was going through something. Okay? So, yes, you need to do a lot of these things by yourself initially, or you at least need to spend some time doing the things with yourself. But it's always great to have somebody else that you know love, cares, and supports you there at the same time. And I'm here. I love, care, and support you, but y'all know it ain't the same because we can't have a back and forth conversation. So I need you to be able to have a back and forth conversation with somebody. So make sure you're constantly trying to find your accountability partner, and then once you find your accountability partner, I want you to constantly be reminding your accountability partner to come on the TRIBEvibe so they can hear what we talking about. And then I want you to constantly talk with your accountability partner about the stuff that we unpacking, okay? I want you to do all the things all the time, all right? Okay, y'all understood? All right, good. Okay. So, all right, my loves, we are about to get into our meditation. We're going to listen to Netflix Headspace Guide to Meditation, and we're going to be listening to Andy's wonderful little accent as he walks us through a meditation about gratitude. And so he's going to get on there and talk to you about some what is you grateful for. He's going to get on there and talk to you about some what is you grateful for. So when we get on here and Andy asks you what you're grateful for, I want you to think about something that has to do with your self-worth. Something off this list of things we talked about. Think about something that you're grateful for about yourself. Don't you say you're grateful for them kids today. Don't you say you're grateful for that job or that house or that car or whatever, the promotion, whatever. Don't you say that today, okay? You're grateful for that enough. I want you to think about something on this list that you don't normally recognize for yourself that you're grateful for. All right, so we're going to do our housekeeping for our meditation. I want you guys to get comfortable. I want you to make sure that your neck and your back are straight. You can sit down or lie down. And that's pretty much it. Everything else, is up in the air. Y'all know we talk about limiting your distractions. And if you can't, that's okay. If you get distracted, it's okay. Say hi to the distraction and come on back to the meditation. And then if you feel a little awkward, it's okay because you can't do meditation wrong. And it'll feel more and more natural the more you stick with it. So I want you to stay encouraged to keep coming back and stay encouraged while we're doing it, even if you feel a little awkward, because that's okay, because you can't do it wrong. So feeling awkward is part of the process, okay? So, all right, you guys ready to get into it? All right, here we go.
And now, all you need to do is to begin with your eyes open. A nice soft focus, just aware of the space around you. And just maintaining that soft focus with the eyes. Just taking a couple of big, deep breaths. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. So as you breathe in through the nose, the sense of the lungs expanding, the body filling with air. As you breathe out, just noticing how the muscles in the body begin to soften as you exhale. And just one more time, breathing in through the nose. And as you breathe out this time, just gently closing the eyes if you'd like to, and just allowing the breath to return to its natural rhythm. And just take a moment before you do anything else, just to appreciate that feeling of having stopped. Of having nowhere to go, nothing to do. Feeling the weight of the body pressing down into the seat or the floor below you. Perhaps noticing any sounds around you. And rather than resisting them, just allowing the sounds, the thoughts to come and go. And just use this opportunity as well, just to notice how the body feels. Or whether the body feels heavy or light. And whether there's a sense of stillness or restlessness in the body right now. And as you begin to notice those different feelings, sensations in the body, just starting to notice the movement of the breath, that rising and falling sensation. As always, begin in a very general way, just noticing where in the body you feel that movement. Whether it's in the chest, diaphragm, stomach. Doesn't matter where you feel it. Don't need to breathe in any special way. But if you can't feel that movement at all, just gently placing your hand on your stomach. And we're just going to stay with that rising and falling sensation, just as the body and mind begin to settle. Remember, natural for the mind to wander. Just noticing the wandering and gently coming back to the breath. And you can use your breath throughout today's exercise as that place to come back to if the mind wanders off. Now, in having settled the mind a little, we're going to ask that question. Who or what do you appreciate most in your life right now? So ask yourself that question in the exact same way as though you're asking somebody else. And just notice what comes to the surface. Without any expectation, without any judgment, without any hurry. Just allowing that feeling to emerge. Now, if no particular feeling comes up, that's fine. It's natural. Sometimes it takes a little bit of practice. If there's an obvious feeling, just allowing that feeling to remain. Just resting in that feeling of gratitude. If there was no clear feeling, just gently asking that same question again. And just creating that space. Again, we're not thinking about what comes to mind. We're not judging it, analyzing it. Just creating the space. And then if there is a feeling, just allowing ourselves to stay with that feeling of appreciation. And then allowing that feeling to remain. Just beginning to bring the attention back into the body, back to that feeling of weight and contact. Back to any sounds around you.
Alright, loves, how do you feel after meditation? Everybody feel good? Great. Alright, y'all. So, I will see you. Well, I'll see you tomorrow because we'll be back tomorrow today because it took us a while to get this episode uploaded, but that's okay because we practiced in our grace. So, we'll see you back tomorrow for another episode of the TRIBEvibe at 7 o'clock. Don't forget to go subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can see the full episodes. So, alright, my loves, have a wonderful rest of your evening. I love you. Self-love is the best love, and you are enough.